My name's Jimmy. Jimmy Buck. It's Jimmy Buchakjian, but in the service, they couldn't pronounce my last name. So they gave me a nickname, Buck. And it's been that ever since, over 70 years. I joined it in May of 1943. I was 17. My father had a sign, and he was almost leery. He didn't want me to go in the service, but I did. And what I said to him, Pop, if you don't sign, they're going to draft me because I quit school. They're going to draft me, and they're going to put me in the front line. And because I have no education, you know, and I'm going to be killed. So right away, 3 weeks later, he signed. And I went in 3 days after he signed. 3 years. Seaman first class. And that was it. I never went any further. I was satisfied, you know. After boot camp, it's funny, they interviewed me. And one of the questions they asked me was, would you like to be close to home, or would you rather be far away? I says, naturally, I want to be close to home. So he writes it down, whatever he wrote down, just like you and I are sitting here. He wrote everything down. So that was the interview. And I'm saying to myself, after I left his office, I said, that's a bunch of bull. You know, they'll put me anywhere. Nevertheless, 3 days later, after I came back from my leave, and after they interviewed me, we lined up in the mess hall, about 8 lines, all the way from one end to the other. And who got a red tag, who got a blue tag, who got a pink tag on the line. So that I was in the middle of the line. So one guy lifts his tag up. He says, Philadelphia, and that's my line. So I came to Philadelphia about 5 days later. And they signed us to a ship named Phoenix. Yeah, that was in 1943. And they put me on that ship, but it was a mess. They were putting all new guns on there because it was at Pearl Harbor. It escaped the massacre or whatever happened there, which I have pictures I'm going to show you, just before Pearl Harbor. They missed hitting the Phoenix because it was anchored out. And I have pictures where all the other ships were lined up. They were after that. They didn't go for the ships that were anchored. They didn't touch them. I assume that they want to get the Arizona, and the other ships that were involved, which I have the names on them, which was captured from the Japan, you know, when we took over. And we had 1,300 men aboard ship, including Marines and officers. We had 22 Marines and enlisted men. Light cruiser, CL-46, a light cruiser. And like after they put the quad 40s, which was I assigned to, it's like the pom-poms. It goes back and forth. Then we went to New Guinea, went overseas. Quad 40 is their guns. It's 40 millimeter, and it's one. You're in a tractor seat. It's like a tractor seat. You're in there, and you adjust. I was a gun pointer, and you adjust your point, your wherever you want to shoot, your target. And then another guy was a setter. He swiveled, like that. And that's how we shot 2 kamikazes while we were there. Yeah, port and starboard, 2 kamikazes. And I'll tell you, it was terrible. One of the wings fell on a fantail. We had guns on a fantail. It killed 3 people. That's how close it was, like 500 yards. And I saw that. And that's right, they're coming out. You see them. And they're kamikazes. You don't, you shoot. You stay on this, and hopefully you don't get hit. It hit them. You don't get them first. I saw the Nashville get hit. USS Nashville. It's a sister ship to our ship. I saw 2 kamikazes come in, and 300 people, 400 people died on that one. I saw it. It was terrible. And we didn't know what it was at first. Usually they drop bombs, but this is kamikaze. Then we realized what was happening, and we got on the ball, And then when we were in Subic Bay, the Japanese fleet was coming after our fleet. All right, we got word that they're coming after us. So we knew it was going to be ship-to-ship battle, okay? Like the pirates, remember the pirates? It was going to be ship-to-ship, and it was. And we sunk their battleship. We sunk 2 of their cruisers and a lot of their small craft. We did have it. That happened like 3:30 in the morning, at night. Now we lost PT boats. We had PT boats that helped us, with torpedoes, get close to these battleships to stop them from coming in. But also our 6-inch guns, and there was another heavy cruiser which had 8-inch guns, helped sink their battleship. 1 battleship and 2 cruisers. And the next morning, it was over, daylight. There was Japanese hold on to logs. There was dead Japanese, a lot of them. You see them float in the water. So the ones that were still alive, we wanted to capture and bring them aboard ship. They went, no, they didn't want to be captured. They didn't want to be captured. 4 of them did come aboard. We put the nets out, they climbed the net, they came out. The rest of them, was a bunch of them, they wouldn't come. They're going like this, like that. So we had Marines aboard ship. They had orders to kill them. I saw that and I walked away. On deck, the Marines start shooting. And you can't let the prisoners, you can't let them go. I know they were going to die, even because they're going to, float away. But before they died, they shot them. I didn't like that. I mean, as much as I didn't like them, because, they attacked us. We didn't attack them. They did a lot of damage. You'll see the pictures. It's a surprise attack. They didn't only train me on my quad 40s. They trained me on the 5-inch guns. They trained me on the 6-inch guns. And then we had the 50 millimeter at the fantail and in the front, what they call that, I forget. And they trained me and others on all the guns in case you get hit, somebody else takes over. Then we went back out to the Philippines. We freed the Filipinos, Corregidor and Bataan. We were in that battle. I saw paratroopers coming down. We couldn't land because we had a lot of oppositions. So we landed paratroopers, and I seen a few, shot, killed when their head went down, and I saw it in my glasses. At that time, I was a lookout, so I was on top of the mast, and they had me on lookout. So I was on different assignments, and we shelled our 6-inch guns. We shelled the beach. We got the beach cleared. Then the soldiers went up, ashore, and they had opposition. They called us, and we went a little further. And at one time, there was a disaster. We killed our own people. So it's not only our ship, the other ships too. So it happens. The target didn't make it, but today they're pretty much on a beam, So it's a different ball game today. The radar, we had the radar, and the radar just keeps going round and round. And then when it goes back and forth, instead of going round and round, I look at the radar. I says, uh-oh, there's a bogey. We call it the bogey in the area. That means unidentified subject or whatever. And then at one time I was on lookout, and I saw a Japanese Zero coming in. In Subic Bay. And I reported it, and before I even reported that I saw the bogey, they were shooting on them. They knew it before I knew it. Oh yeah, they got him. We yelled, screamed, yeah. We shook on. Well, we're kids. I mean, I think of that today. As you get older, you mellow. So when you're mellow, it's not good. Like I said, when you get old, you think of these things. Everything comes back. Your childhood or your whole life history, as you were growing up. And in some cases, it bothers you, Yeah, New Guinea. And then there's different parts of New Guinea also. Corregidor was bad. Bataan, we shelled that for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, throwing shells. And they sunk one of our ships, destroyers. Destroyers went right in because they were small ships. The cruisers were bigger ships. We couldn't go in, or else it would be grounded. We couldn't get out. We would be a target. We were pretty far, maybe more than 1,000. I would say more, I'm forgetting. But we were out, but we could see land. And our 6-inch guns went right over, bang, bang, bang. Over the destroyers and over the beach. And we made landing for the soldiers on the LCIs, landing crafts. They went down, they went in. Then we get a call We have opposition to certain angles, certain position. And so we fired over that, and we were successful in most of the cases, you know. But we did that not only New Guinea, all the other islands too, the little one where all the Japs, you know, took over. And Subic Bay, that was another place. Yeah, we bombarded that for a whole week, you know, until we landed troops. The pillboxes and everything, you know. Well, MacArthur was in charge, first of all. Okay. Admiral Nimitz and who's the other? Nimitz. 5th and 6th Fleet. I was in the 5th Fleet. We had 2 fleets. 5th and 6th. Halsey, Nimitz and Halsey. And MacArthur was in charge. But MacArthur had to move from one ship to another. He stayed 10 days from one ship, land 10 days, moved to another ship 10 days, because Tokyo Rose said, we're after MacArthur. You know, we had the radio. Tokyo Rose was propaganda. She spoke English. And we were listening on the radio. We had radios in every room, you know, aboard ship. And they said, we sunk the Phoenix, you know, and we're laughing. we're by them, and we're laughing and laughing. And that was propaganda, you know. And, you know, that went all along. So we took little islands here and there because Japs they took over 1, 2, 3, real easy, you know. Aboard ship, we had rooms where we had a tailor shop, you know, below decks, you know, pressing machine and sewing machine and iron. And at one time they asked me, what is your trade? What did you do? I said, I'm a tailor. Well, I didn't sew that much, but I knew enough, you know, I'm a kid. So they said, oh, we're going to put you in the tailor shop. I said, good. So I didn't have any work parties. A work party is when we get shipment of food, different things. You have to carry it, you know, all the supplies. Then they get so many guys. So I was exempt on that, you know, because you worked, you know. But anyway, to make a long story short, I got friends with a couple of guys. They said, hey, Buck, he says, could you make bell bottoms? I said, yeah, I know how to do that. But I said, I'm not allowed, you know. Yeah, it's got to be regular uniform. And, but I'll make it. I said, I made one for myself. He says, you did? I said, yeah. So I made him a bell bottom, and I made myself a bell bottom. And now we're in Australia for leave, you know, port and starboard. And I said, I'm going to wear my bell bottom because that's a little sexy. So I wore my bell bottom. He wore his. He didn't get caught. But as you go off the ship, you have to salute. There's also a deck. He says, hey, sailor, come here. He said, where'd you get those bell bottoms? I said, I made them. He says, you did? He says, that's not regulation. He says, get back, take it off. Bell bottoms are all right when you're not on the ship. When you're off the ship, you could carry it with you, yeah, and you could wear it at Liberty. Liberty is, you know what Liberty is. And you could put your bell bottom on, you know. But then I couldn't go ashore. I took my Liberty card, and they took me out of the tailoring department and put me back on the guns, and it cost me, but I did stuff with the officers too, whatever they wanted. But the officers got first priority. The sailors, enlisted men, you couldn't. We're fighting a war, Well, it was around Subitbeg, one of the islands. When he came aboard our ship, I can't remember. He came aboard our ship. They said MacArthur is going to come aboard our ship. He says, you got your sleeve, no roll up, no cigarettes. We used to keep our cigarettes here and roll up, and shirt, button, hats. I said, oh shit. I says, okay. So he came aboard for 10 days. Stayed aboard. There was pictures of him. They took pictures. I didn't see him come aboard. I didn't see him leave. But he was aboard. But we had 22 Marines aboard our ship. And they went to school on one of the islands. They went off our ship. And they were his orderly aboard our ship. But in the meantime, at one time or other, they weren't on our ship. For 2 days, they were ashore. I think it was in Subic Bay. And here, the sailors took turns to be his orderly, to stay on guard at his cabin. Nobody goes this way, nobody goes that way, So I stood guard. They put a 45 gun, millimeter gun on my belt. I said, I don't know how to shoot a 45. He said, put it on, you got to wear it. So I stood guard and, at attention. So one of the officers said, I need one of your sailors to one of our other sailors to stand guard because the Marines went ashore, and one of your sailors has to stand guard for 4 hours. So the officer that came up to me, he says, "What's your name?" I says, "Jim Buchakjian, better know this book." He says, "Well, you had the duty to stand guard." He says, "Are you capable?" I said, yeah. What do I have to do? Just stand in front of his cabin. Nobody comes this way. On guard. Here's the 45. So I say, I never used it. Put it on. And all of a sudden, about an hour or 2 hours later, the door opens. Oh, I'm shaking. Here was MacArthur. I gave him a salute. He gave me a salute. And he stands on a lifeline. And he has hair going across a little bit like this. And the wind was blowing, and he's going like this. So he looks at me. He says, "Sailor," he says, "go in my cabin." He says, "Get a certain hat he wanted." He named it. And it wasn't kosher to me. I didn't understand. But I knew he wanted a hat. So I saluted him, went in his cabin. I go in his cabin. He has a shelf like that, full of hats, all different kinds of hats. So I just picked the hat up, my left hand, because I had a salute. I left there. I saluted him. I gave him the hat. He looks at me. He says, God damn it. He says, that's not the hat I want. And he took it out of my hand. He looked at me, and he went back in his cabin, and he shut the door. And I was, on guard. I start crying. I had tears in my eyes. So about 5 minutes later, he always checked up on me. He says, are you okay, sailor? I says, no. I says, no, I'm not. I says, get me off this duty. And I'm crying. What's the matter? And I told him. He says, well, did he talk to you? I said, no. He just took the hat out of my hands. He said, God damn it. And he said, well, you have 2 more hours. I said, okay, And I just stood there with tears in my eyes. But 10 minutes later, he was good. He got somebody, he saw I was upset. He got somebody to take care of me. And that's my story. After I got discharged, the government said wherever you were working, you could get your job back. So I was a truck driver picking up dry cleaning at that time, right? Because I had a driver's license. I was 16, I quit school at 16, and I drove for almost a year, for a company and picked up dry cleaning. And I did that for quite a few years. I went to the service, and then when I got out, I called my boss up, my old boss. I said, do I get my job back? He says, certainly. He says, I want you back. And I worked for him for 9 years. And I did very well. I picked up a lot of new customers. And he says, Jimmy, why don't you go on your own? But don't take my customers. I said, what if they don't want you? They want me. He says, don't take my customers. I did not take the customer. A couple of them came to me because they quit. A few of them quit because they liked me. I was a likable person. Picking up dry cleaning. And I was making, when I first started, I was making $15 a week. Then I went into service. Then when I came back, I was making $25 a week. And then, I worked myself up until I got my own business. In the meantime, I got married 6 months after I got out of service. A year later, I had a baby. And at that time, I was making $75 a week. Big money. And I bought a car, for like $30. And then I wanted to buy a house. I went to the VA, and they gave me a lot of BS. Sign these papers, sign this. So I signed it, I took it in. That wasn't enough. They gave me another sheet. And I looked at it, I said, you know what? I'm not going to go through that. So I sold my car for $500. It was a down payment on the house for $4,000. I bought a house for $4,000. This is after the war, and this is 6 months after the war. And from there on, I grew. I got my own business, tailoring and dry cleaning. I just built up my business, and my wife helped me. I taught her how to sew. I learned how to sew from my parents. They were tailors. And That's it. I became very famous.
Yeah.
In the Philadelphia area. I moved, yes. I bought the house, my first house in Philadelphia. Like I said, 4,000. Then I sold that for 8,000. I bought in Delaware County, a house in Delaware County, Upper Darby. I sold that. I bought a house in Havertown. And I still have that house in Havertown. But in the meantime, I moved to Newtown Square. In the meantime, my wife died from MS about 25 years ago. And I'm living with my son. I retired. I retired at 90. Well, I had my own business. I told my customers when I was about 80, 85, that I'm going to retire. A lot of talk. They says, no, you're not. I said, yes, I am. I'm tired. They said, you're not going to retire. I says, okay. So I stayed until 90. And in the meantime, I was still preaching that I'm going to retire at 90. And I finally did. And it's funny, I miss my customers. They're like my buddies, like in the service, your friends. Some of them, they said, where do you live, Jim? I gave them my house. We're coming over, you're going to do my alterations. I said, okay.